RougeRadio.com. Jenn talking CFL awards with Tyler Bieber of CFL Daily. Hi, Tyler. Being an award show, they save the best for last, but because we're recapping it, we can do the best first. Most outstanding player: Travis Lulay, BC Lions; Anthony Calvillo, Montreal LOS were the two finalists. A lot of people expected it to be Calvillo simply because of his record-breaking season.
Yeah, and partially what I thought maybe might have happened was a career, like a lifetime achievement award for him, being that he has done so much, and this could be his final year. And Travis Lulay is in his first full year as starting, and he's just starting out as a quarterback in the league and hasn't accomplished nearly as much as Calvillo has, obviously. But that apparently didn't factor into the vote at all.
Well, and I think when a lifetime achievement award almost has to be after you retire.
True.
So because Calvillo's status is still up in the air, I don't think anybody knew what to do, and it should really be on this season. The most outstanding player should be the most outstanding player this season.
Absolutely.
And Calvillo had a rather pedestrian year,
yes,
by Calvillo standards. Yes, he broke the records, but it wasn't one of his usual stellar seasons.
Yeah, I guess if you judge it from the first 9 games, Calvillo would have won, obviously, because Travis Lulay simply was not good enough for the BC Lions. But it was the second half of the season that he turned it on and absolutely lit up the CFL with his passing marks. Whereas Calvillo, he got injured and his stats started to decline, and he didn't throw as many touchdown passes. And then in the final game of the season, where the Lions totally dominated the Alouettes 43-1, that is probably where Lulay stamped his mark on the award.
I think it is. And Calvillo, I think a lot of the writers in the league at least are, I guess, maybe over him. He's been in the news so much, he's always great. But when he kind of has those average games that a lot of quarterbacks would kill to have, there are a lot of CFL quarterbacks who would love to have an average game for Calvillo, one of his not so great games, because he's still better than a lot of the other quarterbacks in the league. But when he doesn't play up to those expectations, that he's set that bar so high that I don't know that he can, he can blame anyone other than himself for that.
Yeah.
A teammate of Lulay, the Lions did well at the awards night. Paul McCallum won the special teams. Another little bit of a shocker because he was up against Chad Owens of the Argos. When we're speaking of records, McCallum set some, Owens set them. Owens won last year. Do you think that hurt him?
Kind of. I mean, you have a 41-year-old kicker in Paul McCallum, and he's done something that has never been done in the CFL, and that is a 94% accuracy rating on the season, missing just 3 field goals. And he had the consecutive field goal streak that ended at 30. Then again, you have Owens, back-to-back seasons where he has had 3,000 all-purpose yards. Granted that some of them come offensively, but he did have 2,600 return yards, which is absolutely amazing in any league.
All right, and I mean, that's never been done in professional football.
Right.
All right, the back-to-back seasons. And, this is with teams knowing. Last year, he had that element of surprise. People weren't sure what to do, and they kept kicking to him. This year, he was kicked to very rarely. More teams kicked away from him, and he still made it to 2,600 yards. So, he's definitely, and he's, again, younger, going to be back next year. So he's got more chances, and Paul McCallum, we don't know when he's going to hang him up.
Right.
So this could have been one of those. I mean, he's definitely deserving. 2 very deserving candidates. There was no clear favorite going in. You could make cases for both. The next award was the outstanding defensive player. A bit of a surprise in that it's the first defensive back to win. Javon Johnson of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And he was up against Terrell Freeman from Saskatchewan, a more traditional winner of the outstanding defensive player because it's a linebacker, right? I know there's going to be complaints that there's really no Eastern nominee, but let's face it, the Bombers are an Eastern team for now anyway. So you do have an Eastern nominee, but was Javon Johnson the right choice?
I guess it depends what you grade it on. I mean, Johnson led the league in interceptions. He had 8, but Freeman took his game to a higher level, and the fact that he was on one of the worst teams in the league, I think he stands out higher than a guy like Johnson, who was on the best team in the East. And, he has a great supporting cast. He has Jonathan Hafney, who could have been a nominee for the award himself. And then you have their pass rush, Odell Willis, you have Jason Vega, Kenny Maynard, Doug Brown. They all get to the quarterback, and that helps out a defensive back a lot.
Ian Logan.
Right, Ian Lowe.
Although it is something to be said that if you're playing on a team full of ball hawks, the number of interceptions should play in, that you can distinguish yourself from your other defensive teammates.
Right.
I guess is why he got the nod.
Yeah.
He was the best of a really good lot. But I do agree that with Saskatchewan, if you're an outstanding player on a team that is the worst team in the league, and that's how they ended up, that should say something for you. So, I mean, I think Freeman, I don't think we've heard, the last of Freeman. He's young. He's young, but he's a free agent, and there's the NFL chatter and all that stuff. I think he got a look from the Houston Texans last year, and he'll probably expand on that this offseason and try and catch on. And I'm thinking he very well may, as a special teams player, such as guys like Corey Greenwood, Cam Wake. He's not on the Cam Wake level, certainly, but he's one of those guys who could definitely make it on a practice roster in the NFL. So. Speaking of players with NFL aspirations, the top Canadian. It's unusual that we talk about the top Canadian and go into the NFL in the same sentence. But there's been a lot of chatter about Jerome Messam, who is the top Canadian, up against Sean White, a kicker. Kickers, usually if they're going to win an award, it's going to be special teams.
Yeah.
It's very rare that they're going to win the top Canadian award, just because kickers kind of, they kick. That's what they do. It's okay, you kick the ball through the uprights, that's kind of your job. Right? It's not, they don't tend to win these kind of non-special teams awards as a kicker. So Jerome Messam was overwhelmingly the favorite. All you have to do is look at last week's Western Final to see how the Eskimos did without Messam, to know how important he was to the team. Do you think he might leave for the NFL?
I don't really see him as being a guy that's going to make the NFL. I mean, he can probably take a look, but to me, he just doesn't strike me as an NFL player. I mean, I could be wrong, but, it's hard to say, really.
I could see him possibly doing returns. I don't see him as an every down. He would never be an every down back.
No, absolutely not.
It's hard to see how he would fit in given his size in the NFL.
True. Yeah.
Thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of size, we have the most outstanding linemen. These guys are, you see them next to the award presenters and you're constantly amused. I mean, I'll love Steve Randolph, but really, when he goes up next to a lineman, he looks ridiculously small. Especially somebody like Josh Bork of Montreal, who is not exactly dainty. And he won. It could have been a tie. I mean, was this one of those that hard to call?
Yeah, I mean, you have two guys. Obviously, they both play tackle, but the thing is, Bork protects Calvillo's blind side, the left tackle spot. Olafioye is the right tackle. And while he doesn't have to do as much, he still is very important to what Travis Lulay does on offense. But I think where Bork may have won the award was he missed one game very early in the season. I believe it was week 4 against Saskatchewan. Calvillo got dinged up that game. That was the first game that Calvillo
started to get hit.
Yeah.
That was the first of Calvillo's really bad. Calvillo got hit far more this season than he ever has.
Right.
But I don't think that's not a knock against Bork. I mean,
no.
I think it's just a knock that he didn't have tons of other, they needed other line support, and the left tackle can't do it on his own.
Right. But when you take Bork out of the lineup and you put in Jarrell McCullough, or else you switch Jeff Parrott over from right tackle to left tackle, the difference between them and Bork is absolutely massive.
Sometimes we see an award winner in absence, but not more than you see him in presence. You need to see him when he's gone and see what happens when he's gone to see just how valuable he is to the team. The outstanding rookie, not really a surprise, because offense tends to trump defense in awards, in non-categorized awards. When you can pick anyone, you very rarely see a defensive player winning, even if it's somebody like J.C. Sherritt, who is a very deserving nominee. It doesn't surprise me that he has been the linebacker for the Eskimos, that he's been that was nominated. But Chris Williams, wide receiver for the Ticats, you see them a lot more. They get a lot more TV time, if nothing else.
Yeah. Sherritt, he was injured as well, and I think had he played a full season, he would have had a better chance at the award. But still, when you look at Williams, he was a 1,000-yard receiver in his first season. He also becomes the first receiver since Weston Dressler in 2008 to win the award. A speedy guy. Actually came to Hamilton because they traded Appreciate Rodriguez to Saskatchewan, and his rights were in that trade going from Saskatchewan to Hamilton. So this could have been Saskatchewan's gain, but at the end of the day, it is Hamilton's, and rightfully so for them.
Yeah, sorry, Saskatchewan fans. We're really not picking on you, but
add it to the pile.
Yeah, add it to the pile of the. Well, it's that sometimes there are just dumb decisions made in football. Right. Occasionally. Another Ticat wins an award, the Tom Pate Award for outstanding sportsmanship and significant contribution to the community. So it's we're not quite sure what the criteria is for this award, other than outstanding, sportsmanship and contribution to the community. What kind? How do you judge what one player does in his community to what another player does in theirs? But Kevin Glenn is definitely a deserving winner.
Absolutely. You can talk all about Glenn and his performance on the field, maybe his inconsistencies and his struggles, but at the end of the day, I don't think you'll ever hear anybody say a bad thing about Kevin Glenn. He's one of those guys who does the work in the locker room, does the work in the media, does the work in the community, puts in an honest effort every day, and definitely one of the better guys in the league.
Yeah, if he has an off game, it's definitely not due to lack of preparation.
Absolutely.
The Commissioner's Award goes to a person or group who has made a significant contribution to the CFL. And yet this person didn't really make a significant contribution to the CFL directly. It was Larry Rita, who's the former director and president of the BC Junior Football League, which has done a lot in terms of getting players developed and ready. There's been a lot of, I think it's like a 200% gain in BC Junior football in the last 10 years. So getting more kids playing the game is ultimately going to benefit the CFL. So it was a nice award. And then we had the last one was awarded earlier in the week, but it's still somewhat important. It's the Jake Goddard Award. And it's the CFL player who best demonstrates the attributes of Canada's veterans. So it's hard work, perseverance, community service are some of the ones that are mentioned. And Andre Dury of the Toronto Argonauts, somebody who's usually kind of hidden. You don't notice him very much. A York product, came from the CIS, plays, minimum of 3 positions, usually in every game for the Argos. He's a little bit of a jack of all trades, so he tends to get neglected a lot when you're talking about outstanding stars. He's kind of in the shadow of Chad Owens when he kick returns.
Right, and I think you used the word perfectly there, hidden. Even when you talk about Canadians, like Dury is Canadian, he is actually one of the better Canadians in the league, but you're not going to hear about him. You're going to hear about John Cornish, you're going to hear about Jerome Messam, Andy Fantuz, Andrew Harris, and Dury is on the back burner a little bit, but with a little time and work, he's going to get his name out there more, and I think this award is a start. Not on the football field maybe, but off the football field now he's going to get his name recognized, and he'll just have his stock go up from there.
Yeah, he's not an afterthought. He definitely deserves to be right out there, especially in a league that prizes Canadians as much as the CFL does. And we talked a bit on the segment, on the CFL news segment, about the Grand Prairie Warriors. And just a note that Rick Gilson, the coach of the Grand Prairie Warriors, was awarded a special award by the NFL Canada, and it's the NFL Canada Coach of the Year, just for the way that he has kept that team together in the month since the tragic loss of the 4 players. There was an update that the player who was in a coma is out of a coma and has been transferred to a rehab facility. So that's some good news there. But to be able to keep a coach, his speech also talked a lot about the responsibility of coaches, referencing the Penn State scandal, and that you have a sacred trust as a coach. So it's good to see the good things happening to good people.
Yeah, and you have to remember that these guys are all volunteers. They don't get paid, and they're dealing with young men and developing them into adults. And it's great to see guys that can go out there and have that kind of impact on these kids.
It is, and all the best to them in Grand Prairie. I mean, it's going to be a long road. It's not over by any means. There's still a lot of healing to go. So we wish them our best.